what is going on in our society? According to the people that you've been coaching, Shumi, what have you found across the board that is a common similarity between people?
So obviously I speak to singles mostly,
Yeah,
and a lot of the people that I'm speaking to they have big trust issues.
yeah,
They are not very trusting of the opposite sex. They have a lot
yeah,
of suspicion. They just don't feel very secure going forward into their relationships. And some of them, obviously, if they're divorced, they've had trauma from those relationships.
yeah, yeah.
People have trauma from their childhood. People also, they get very busy with their careers, and
Okay.
they put marriage to the backdrop. And
Right,
that's
right,
both
right,
men
right.
and women. They want to delay, and until
Yeah,
the point of it's really hard for me to find somebody now. And so they start to panic. And then they start panicking, they start to either take whatever's there or
yeah.
become even more, strict and regimental about what they want. So it's like a paradox, but the main real crux of the issue is
Yeah,
because there's so much content out there
yeah,
vying each gender against the other,
yeah.
people are becoming quite paranoid about the opposite sex. I find this is a big
Shumi,
problem.
could I ask you something about that? Okay, so there's quite a few variables that you've mentioned, yeah, about like in terms of trust issues. There's also like there's expectations and that. What would you say was the biggest thing out of those factors that you've just mentioned? What is the main
Um,
thing? Would you
from
say?
my Obviously this is not like a statistical data thing, but
No,
from
no,
my
no, of course.
discussion, it's mostly to do with the trusting
Ah,
that this person that you're going to marry is going to do right by you, fulfill their
right.
obligations, and you know have that family life that they're after.
You know,
um
when you say trust, what does that look like? What do you mean by that?
I think a lot of it's to do with the way that people present themselves before marriage. They are fearing that it's not really the same once you are married. And
Okay.
things pop up that were not evident before. And sometimes you do have red flags.
Yeah.
Some people, they ignore the red flags, sometimes they will address it. But also, things do pop up that the either person has been hiding or it just wasn't addressed in the first place. The
Yeah.
right questions were not asked in the first place, and that goes for men and women. So,
Yeah.
a woman might want very much to focus on her career, for example,
Hmm.
not really counting on the fact that her husband may want children straight away,
Okay.
or so, want her to stay at home. These questions, either people change their mind,
Yeah.
or they hide it, or that it's just not addressed in the first place.
Right. Right. And do you know in terms of this process, do you think that the person that they're about to marry or the person in the speaking has much involvement with their own family? So, like, say for example, if I were to go into a marriage, I would have my family around me as to consult to get advice. Do you think that there's a lot of interference with that element as well, like in terms of the pre-selection?
Mm. I think a lot of the times, we've moved away as a community from this whole arranged marriage scenario.
Okay.
Obviously, it still does happen, but we
Yeah.
kind of have been left to our own devices. And
Yeah.
so because of that, family involvement comes a lot later stage. And
Right.
by
Right.
that
Right.
time, you may be emotionally invested, you may have made
Yeah.
some commitments. So it's a bit hard for you to seek honest conversation and advice from your elders when you've already made up your mind. Um,
Okay.
and also, like some people, the families don't want to be involved in that way. They don't want
Yeah.
to always steer the conversation a certain way. They don't want to influence a certain way. They're just happy that they've chosen to be married
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're just worried. They're scared that my child will just delay, or they're
Yeah.
not happy with them. Like that people are scared to interfere in this situation. They don't want the repeat of what we've seen in the past where there's
Yeah.
too much involvement. But sometimes we also need our elders' wisdom. We also need their
Yeah.
input, and maybe the youngsters are not seeking it because
It actually sounds like as if that we've gone from one extreme to another, from them being involved to now not even being involved. It's
yeah.
trying to find that middle ground, I guess.
That's it. I mean,
You know?
it's not as extreme as that. Like there is
Yeah,
some level of involvement,
yeah,
but I think the initial stages, because we have a lot of apps that are very, very much like hands off when it comes to the families. This is
yeah,
completely independent between the, you know, potential husband and wife. So they are left to their own devices with it when it comes to that. So it's such a big, you know, resource that people go to,
yeah.
that family involvement is a lot later on. And so this is what I find that tends to happen.
Shumi, I want to ask you something about what you said earlier on about issues with trust and expectations. Like, so, do you think maybe it's not a matter of trust? It's there could be a case of where a situation has popped up, a test, let's call it a test or a challenge, and they don't have the tools to navigate that, and
Mm.
because of that, then it ends up all over the place, the relationship. Then it becomes a trust issue. So it's not like
Mm.
as if I can't trust you. It's because I don't have the coping mechanisms or the skills to navigate this. I'm gonna say, yeah,
Mm.
it's a trust issue.
Mm.
Do you think it's a bit of
Yeah,
that, or like,
there is a bit of that, but for
yeah,
me, the way I see it, like because there's so much content out there that is vying one against the other,
yeah,
it
yeah,
all it takes is for somebody to make one small mistake before they brand that person red pillar or a
yeah, yeah,
misogynist
yeah,
or a misandrist. And sometimes people don't work in those dynamics. People are complicated. People have
absolutely,
maybe one idea from one, and then, you know, they completely disagree with another part. There is nuance to red pill ideas. There's nuance to some
yeah,
feminist ideas, but we end up brandishing a person that label just by one idea that they may have expressed. And so this is why I'm saying, like, people come not as one monolith. They have different aspects to their characteristics and the ideas that they have. And we, as a community, we really don't know how to see people for who they are. They
yeah,
are complicated human beings. They are on their own journey of development, just like we are ourselves. Like people, if a person comes to me for coaching,
yeah.
they're already on their healing journey, but who they
Okay,
marry may not have even started their healing journey. But we can't write that person off just because they haven't started it. Maybe
yeah,
they haven't had that opportunity to start their healing journey. um, and so we end up brandishing that person. Oh, he hasn't evolved. Oh,
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
have a mindset, a growth mindset. Well, it's maybe he just hasn't had the opportunity. He just hasn't had the time. He hasn't had the chance. He doesn't know the importance of it. You got to coax people, and you got to bring the best out of people, and you can only do that when you're open with them.
So, all right. So, where would we go from here? Because we've got all of these like influences around us. How do we even navigate this now, Shumi? Where do we even
I mean,
start? Like,
for me, the way I would
yeah.
start is go back to basics, which is what does
Okay.
the Prophet ﷺ,
Yeah.
what does he espouse? What did they do back then? And I know this is one thing I would say to people is that
Yeah.
we are not like the Sahaba. We are
Yeah.
not like the prophets. We don't
Absolutely.
live in that era. So a lot of things, although we should aspire to it, it's not in our reality. So if a
Yeah.
man is able to marry three, four women,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you should do it because
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe
Of
you
course.
don't
I
have the
get that. Yeah.
temperament.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
or a woman, if she wants to marry one, you know, like divorce a man and marry
Yeah.
another, hoping that he will look after her child. Well, that man is not like the Sahabiya that you read
No.
about
No.
who's
That's
going to
right.
do that. Do you understand? So we can't apply our reality and our presentism to what was there before.
Shumi,
However,
I would
yeah,
challenge that. Yeah. I would say we can't do that, but what we can do is we can apply timeless principles.
yes, that's right.
You know.
Well, this is what I was going to go on to,
Yeah. Yeah. Go
is
on.
that we need to go back to what were the ideas,
Yeah.
what were the message that the Prophet ﷺ gave us,
Yeah.
which is that you are one ummah.
Yeah.
You're here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're here to prove to Allah that you belong in His Jannah, that
Yeah.
you did the best you could while you're here. And this dunya is not about what I can gain monetarily, what kind of house I make, what
Yeah.
kind of children I produce. All of those are byproducts of your main mission. And I think this is what we were discussing before, is that, like, if people don't understand
Yeah.
what their mission is, you are always going to be looking and constantly vying after these material things because you think that is your mission. My mission is to now, get a bigger car or a bigger house
Yeah, yeah.
and to become the, successful person. Well, what does success mean?
Shumi, see, I want to ask you, do you know when someone gets married, what should be the mission in the marriage? Because you've got your individual mission,
Mm,
and then you got another mission in the marriage.
that's right. Yeah.
What should that be then? What should that look like?
Yeah. Well, if I look back to the Prophet
So,
ﷺ and
yeah,
his first marriage
yeah,
with Khadija, radiallahu anha, she was his supporter.
okay,
She was his biggest advocate. She was the one that he sought comfort in. They were a team. And
yeah,
so as that role model is the thing that we are supposed to aspire to, really what you're doing as a couple, you're supposed to be one team, which has the goal of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, creating this next generation, creating more abids for the world.
absolutely,
This as a couple from Islam, you are supposed to be leaving that legacy. And it's, as I said, it's not just about having a bigger house and
no,
moving all
yeah,
around the world.
that's right,
You
yeah,
you're here to worship Allah as a couple, as a Muslim family, to produce the next set of worshippers.
yeah,
And if you don't have that understanding, then you're gonna end up, like veering towards, oh, my child has to go to this special, amazing school and he has to get
yeah,
to the
yeah.
best universities. And then the minute he doesn't, that's when you start having problems. Oh, you didn't do this, that's why he didn't go to the best school. You didn't get that bigger job, so that's why we don't.
Shumi, I want to add some additional things to what you've just said there because that's quite profound because it's so complex. I've seen as well. It is so intricate in terms of when we go into a marriage. There's a couple of things that happen. One of them is that we end up going through the momentum of just parenting. So the goal, what should be the goal, is just sort of obsolete, and it just becomes day to day automated mechanics.
Yeah.
Just feed, clothe, take the kids to school, and that's it. And also at the same time, we also lose track of our own identity. So we become, say, for example, father mode, mother mode, or wife mode, or husband mode. And it doesn't really go beyond that. And then when that happens, when the kids are all grown up, for example, or reached a certain age, then we're trying to navigate, okay, now what do I do? Like there's different phases of an identity. Yes, the children can only keep you busy for a certain period. Your responsibilities can keep you busy for a certain period, but then what happens after that? What happens when the kids are just gone independent and they're leading their life, or they're like sort of semi-grown up into their teens? Like, what is our identity then?
That's it. I mean, that goes back to what you were saying about you have a mission as a family and a mission as a personal mission that you have. If I personally believe every single person should have their own mission.
Yeah,
Maybe it won't transpire until your children are older. Maybe it won't transpire until you have reached a secure place in your life.
yeah,
But you should have something that you fall back on, that you believe you can give back. It's about giving back to your community. It's about giving back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that created you. If you don't have that, you are constantly chasing dunya, and that never gives you that level of satisfaction that you'll get when you're tying your existence back to Allah. And as so the thing is, a lot of people, they haven't realized what they can give back, because everybody has a talent.
yeah,
We don't always
absolutely.
know what it is, and sometimes we just don't feel like that talent is good enough to give to other people,
Yeah,
or that we shouldn't share it and we should just keep to ourselves. This is what I was thinking the other day about, like, these mums, the older mums that we have. A lot of them, I get frustrated sometimes with my mum, that she cooks so much,
yeah,
and she is a bit like, they're all a bit, at that generation, they're all a bit obsessed with food.
oh yeah,
They have to have a full fridge. They have to have 5-6 dishes on the table. They're constantly feeding people. And it dawned on me the other day that maybe it's because they saw famine back in Bangladesh. My parents are Bengali. They actually saw people starving to death. They saw people who saw their children starve to death. So, I mean, if I saw that, I would be obsessed with food as well. And maybe that's why they are so continuously, like, that's all they can think of. Their day revolves around it. But
Shumi,
maybe that can be channeled.
that's really interesting that you said that, because I've never ever heard that before. Because I always thought, as I was growing up, because that obsession about food thing, my mum would say, "Oh, to Jesus ni, bat Jesus ni, or ao how," and stuff like that. Yeah. So I actually thought that was just her love language. That's the way that she expressed it. Like, and if you don't eat it, they get very offended. They're like, "Oh, look, I've," because it's funny that you said that, because I was having an interesting conversation with another brother, and we spoke about this, and what the food represented for our families was this. Say, for example, Shumi, I got into an argument with my missus or with my mum, and that they would call us to the table. It was like a way of breaking the ice, making the ice, or when there was a social gathering, there was like this competition going on, like who can outcook each other, who could, like, what's on the table. There was that kind of competition. So it was used to have a conversation, it was used to break the ice, it was used to also brush things underneath the carpets, carpet over an intense situation. So it served so many things, and it brought families together as well, just like a dawat here, this there, and that's still some of that still happens, the tradition. And food actually got so respected, because when it's made, it's like that you put the khoshdo into it and stuff, and it's really appreciated. But now we've got all this fast food stuff and whatnot, and then like the whole essence of what it used to be before is gone out through the window. It's when families used to sit together at that table, we used to have conversations. It held weight. It was such a meaningful and beautiful thing. And even when come Ramadan, my mum didn't really understand the character side of it. She just thought, look, Gori Manush Tarabat Khairuna, like we have to make dua for them. It was like that base meaning that they had, what Ramadan meant around food and stuff. But what you just said just triggered that. Sorry, I just went off the tangent a
No,
little
I
bit.
do agree with that. It is a love language as well for mums to give to their children
Yeah,
of maybe your favourite, the kamani, and this the
yeah,
way
yeah,
that they show love. I do agree with that. But my point was, like, sometimes we might get frustrated, like the daughter-in-laws might get frustrated, or, my mother-in-law said I haven't cooked enough, or whatever.
oh
Like,
yeah,
to
yeah,
to get some perspective of having rahmah for that generation, because they saw things that we should never have been seen by a human being. They saw
yeah,
things
yeah,
that have traumatized them. They probably don't realize it. We've never addressed it. But
yeah,
the famine that they saw has triggered something within them where they feel insecurity when there's not a full fridge. That's not love language. That's
yeah,
a trauma response. Do you get me? So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's just, for me, it's about having a little bit of rahmah for what people have gone through. And the same would be for your husband.
yeah,
If your husband has, for example, he has grown up with poverty
yeah,
and he's a bit stingy with buying takeaway food, for
yeah, yeah,
example, what is the underlying reason? Is because they struggled to feed themselves when they were children, and like I said, like, this is the thing that we need to
interesting.
try and tap into, is having rahmah for a person because of the things that they have gone through
Yeah,
creates a much more harmonious dynamic between you. And because a lot of the times it's just not on our radar to think about what a person has gone through, why are they behaving like this towards me, or why do they have these ideas, is because it's never been addressed. Maybe they don't even know it themselves.
Subhanallah. Wow, wow. Shumi, that's profound. You know what? You've triggered this thing where I can't remember where I read it, but it said, when you get married, the first phase is like the honeymoon period. When you're just into each other, but then once that fizzles out, there should potentially be only rahmah left.
Mm,
And that thing
yeah,
that you're speaking about, and I think that's not emphasized enough.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
there's not enough. Um, when I mean there's not enough education, it's all about emphasis and bringing it to the forefront to say, look, now you guys are going to be tested. Now it's about having that type of rahma where I feel like saying something negative, but I'm going to restrain myself. I'm going to like that type of rahma in terms of to not make the situation worse, to figure out a way of navigating this situation, in the relationship. You
yeah.
know.
Well, this is the thing that, like, this is what Allah talks about in the Quran, that mawaddat rahmah. This is what should be made up of your marriage. This is the bulk of it. If you
yeah,
haven't got that, you either need to develop it or you need to address it, because if you're not having that,
yeah,
what is the basis of your marriage? It's just convenience. It's just
yeah,
an arrangement. It's something that you tolerate until you've had enough of it. And this is what we're seeing. People cannot tolerate another person because they're not having enough rahmah to see that
yeah.
person's perspective, and they end up losing their patience, and then you have a divorce. And although, yeah,
Shumi, see, where do you think that we've lost that kind of rahmah?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like, obviously, everybody has their
Yeah,
own situation. I think a lot of it is because we all have our own situations that we
okay,
often didn't get rahmah for ourselves. So, there's no manual here to how to raise children. We do the best we can,
yeah,
but a
yeah,
lot of our parents didn't give us that emotional validation. They didn't
yeah,
give
yeah,
us that connection. We
yeah,
were fed, we were clothed, and we were
yeah,
slept
yeah.
on.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
so there was never the question of, how are you feeling today? Did you feel upset today? What happened to you for you to react like this? These conversations didn't happen, and so we
yeah,
never think to have that with ourselves, and we don't have it with other people in our lives. And so when you don't get that emotional connection with people yourself,
yeah,
you don't know what it looks like. So if you don't know what it
yeah.
looks like, you can't offer it to anybody else. Do you understand? So it's
Shumi,
hard. I mean,
I would also add on to what you've said as well. Is we not only don't know what it looks like, but also life sort of fast tracks us. It's like that we barely have time to think unless you're consciously
yeah.
stopping yourself and reflecting. That's something else. But generally across the board, the way the society is going on, it's like minimal thinking. You're just moving on from one thing to the another to the other, and only far and few people actually slow down life and think, hang on a second, what is actually going on? Because everyone's caught up in this, not necessarily just the rat race with work, but also the rat race in terms of just thinking. It's just like, when I'm talking about thinking, I'm not talking about reflection. I'm just talking about like, okay, I need to move on to the next thing, just actually, rather than slow things down and just really try to understand what is happening.
Yeah.
And
But we
yeah,
end up stuck in a rat race. We're just a rat race, and it's like if you think about the Prophet ﷺ, how
so some,
he took himself out of the rat race,
yeah,
and he took himself to Mount,
yeah,
Mount
yeah,
Hira,
hero,
and he
yeah,
meditated.
yeah,
He had deep thinking about his life and the people around him,
yeah,
and that is a part of the aspect of his life that we kind of just don't do.
yeah,
We don't do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
We just do the way that he prayed, the way he fasted, and that's all
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah,
But for you to gain his type of characteristic of being a Rahmat person, being a person who everyone flocks to, being a person who gives so much, like those people who just oozes out sunshine, and
yeah,
um,
yeah,
they're like a magnet. They're people magnets. That
yeah.
is what the Prophet ﷺ
So
was.
Islam,
Everybody flocked to be in his company because he had so much rahmah for people. He had so much deep thinking, and he developed that by taking himself to that cave. And we don't have a cave. Where is our cave? We don't have one, and we don't think that we need one because we're just busy. We're just so busy in our rat race lifestyle that
Shumi,
we don't
see,
take time out.
see that thing that you just said about a cave. So there's a difference between having a cave and an outlet, isn't it? Because an outlet could just be a diversion from, like, okay, I don't want to think about it. I just want to relax. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whilst that cave is, no, actually, I want to reconnect with myself, with my creator. It's switching off from all of those types of devices and distractions, and really having those deep, scary conversations with yourself, because that requires to actually confront yourself. Not everyone is prepared to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that, because
Yeah,
like that whole outlet thing, I feel, has become kind of like blown out of proportion. It's become the
yeah,
main focus
yeah,
of your day. So imagine like a person, and I'm guilty of this myself.
yeah,
You're going through the day, and in the back of your mind, all you're thinking is, I can't wait to sit down and scroll on my phone.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's like your ultimate goal of what you should be doing for that day. And hours go by and you're still scrolling, and that's not the ultimate goal of your day. The
yeah,
ultimate goal, it's just time wasting. It's just you having that downtime, but that downtime doesn't need to drag on and on.
Yeah.
But we have never made the time for the cave as well in that day, and that's the problem.
Do you think that we're exhausted even from the cave time, because that also requires work? You know, it's like it requires energy, thinking, and maybe people are just too like exhausted, and they're like now they just want to escape from the exhaustion. And then if they're trying to move on to the, so it's like as if the cave is quite far fetched. It's like, oh, I'm already exhausted. I'm mentally drained. I just want to not think about anything. Just go numb and just relax, or just do
Yeah.
something to.
But
Yeah, go on.
I mean, this is the thing that I personally believe we do too much of that out there. We do too much of that downtime, because as soon as you work 9 to 5, okay, you finish work, you come home maybe at 6 o'clock, maybe you have some food, and then you're video gaming, or you're watching TV, or you're scrolling, and it goes on and on and on. You don't have to have a solid 1 hour of cave time. You could have maybe 5-10 minutes after Salah, and that's your cave time. That's your
Okay.
time that you should have connected with Allah in your Salah, but you're also now thinking about, maybe you're thinking about your mission, that going back to your mission, that what is it that I want to give back? What is it? Why am I here? What is it that I can offer people? Just thinking deeply about what it is that what kind of person you want to be, and what kind of life you want to lead. And that doesn't have to take the entire day. You don't have to go out.
Shumi, see that. Do you think we should be doing that? Say even before the marriage, before we even enter the marriage, that should
Yes.
just be a part of who we all are, and that should be our mechanism of thinking, our frame of thought.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, like
Yeah.
if we haven't been brought up to do that,
Oh
then
yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna have to be a situation where you address it. And so that's why I've created this premarital coaching program to really address what kind of person are you really? What kind of person will you be compatible with? And what kind of future do you want to create? Sometimes it really takes for another person to ask you those questions, so that you're forced to come up with the answer. Because if you don't, you just leave it to the back of your mind, and you just don't address it, and you just don't think that it's relevant. I would say this is the person you're bringing into the marriage. You're not bringing into a marriage a doctor, if you're a doctor.
Yeah.
You're not bringing in a teacher. You are bringing the person that was raised by your parents, the ethos that you have, the values you carry. This is the kind of person you're bringing in, as well as all the traumas that you're bringing in, the baggage that, not everybody has trauma, but you also bring in some level of baggage.
Yeah,
Everybody does. And sometimes it's fine. You're able to be compatible with your partner. You're able to create, and alhamdulillah, marriages they are successful. But the problem is, recently, as we know, the divorce rate is ridiculously high. And maybe part of it is because we haven't done that job. We haven't done the work that needs to be done.
Shumi, regarding the work that needs to be done, okay, so what does how does this process, the way that you operate in your company, in your business, is that something that is it like these tools and skills that people, would you say, that need to learn before marriage, in terms of equipping themselves up, to get a certain level of awareness, a bit of education before they actually enter into the marriage? Is that is that how you operate, or
Yeah, sorry.
do you deal with people who it's when they're in the marriage and then they're going through a challenging situation, and then they turn to you, like what?
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
two or three different aspects of it, which is,
Yeah.
the first aspect is, usually I work with women,
Okay.
and if they are looking for a husband,
Right.
a lot of the times they want to just explore who they are and what
Yeah.
kind of person they are, and to try and address the reasons as to why they haven't found a person yet. So that is the thing that we discuss between us.
Shumi, wait, hold on. I want to interrupt you on that one, yeah, because you said this thing, yeah, and it just triggered something. Like, have you come across people who have made these statements like, "Oh, I'm just waiting for the right one to come along, or the perfect one," or like, have you come across these people that think that way, like thinking, "Okay, I will find the right one. I'm still searching, da 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 da," but what does that even look like? Because not everyone's gonna be that right one. Because I used to think the right one usually comes through your marriage, the commitment to stay committed in a relationship, to improve upon yourself, and then the right one emerges through that journey, through the, if you both put in the work in that, rather than thinking, I'm after the ideal person, or is it something, does an ideal person actually exist, or is an ideal person, let's say for example, all right, that they have certain base qualities that you can work with and build from there? Is it like that, or is it like, no, this ideal person has to have X, Y, Z, and if they don't, then they're not ideal? Like what?
Well, this is the thing that we address, that some sisters, they want the finished product before the guy has even had a chance to really develop himself. So they want him to have his top salary and his house ready, and everything's ready, and he's this emotionally connected type of person. People don't come in packages like that. People grow, people develop, and so if you haven't been able to really understand what it means to marry a person who's not finished product, you're going to expect that. And sometimes, like you're looking for the person which is like you, and that's not always a good idea. Sometimes
I get that.
If you're a very aggressive person, if you're very somebody who's impatient, that's the last thing you need, is a person like that. But sometimes we look for what's familiar, and that's not always a bad idea, but sometimes it is a really bad idea. If you have come from a household which is disruptive and it's dysfunctional, because it's so familiar, you also seek that in the next person that you go into that relationship with. And that's a recipe for disaster, really. Why would you look for that? But because it's just something which you feel is familiar to you, and you end up going for that. And this is the kind of thing that I address. What is it that what background did you come from? Is that the background that you want to create afterwards? But the other thing I was going to say is
that's quite profound, because in addition to what you just said, also it can have this type of effect where if this person's not similar to me, then what will happen is, as soon as that they have a difference of opinion, it becomes very unstable. That's when rather than trying to embrace the differences, they're like, hang on a second, it doesn't confine with my thinking, then they're wrong, and then it becomes very argumentative. It's if they're too similar.
The other aspects as well, like the things that are affecting, is the kind of social media the marriages that we're seeing, like you're just seeing the snippets of the best parts of the marriage, and this gives you a false idea of what marriage is, and then you're trying to look for that in a person. It's just not it's just so unrealistic. And so like this is the kind of things that we would do pre-marital, of somebody who is looking for a person. But the bulk of my work is with a couple, so a person who's decided, this is the person I'm going to marry. This is the couple that I generally work here with, and I do like sessions with the sister by herself, and then I do a couple session, and then that's usually the bulk of my work. And I can do post marriage as well, but that doesn't always happen, because usually they're happy, but we want to be able to create these healthy, contented marriages. I don't use the word happy very often, because this idea of happiness, where did we get this?
What does that actually mean, and what does that even look like? Because I want to sort of sidetrack onto that point, Shumi, because I have a son, and he, from time to time, that he tells me, Dad, you look sad, are you okay? And I'm telling him, son, I'm very happy, but the way he expects happiness is an expression, a smile, this, that. But when I'm like this, it's neutral, I just feel blessed, I'm really good, but I don't need to over exaggerate it and show it. I'm just I'm calm, because happiness to me means I like where I'm at, and just I'm doing my thing, and I'm in good health. I'm just blessed, and to me that's calm. But the way he's seeing it is, no, Dad, are you like, I could have this facial expression just like this, And he'll think that there's something wrong with me. Dad, are you okay? You like, no, 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 son, I'm good. I'm good. Like it's because that they're expecting happiness to look a certain way, and if it doesn't fit into that box,
Yeah.
then it's unfamiliar,
Yeah.
and that also translates into adulthood because they define happiness to be a certain way, but there's so many different ways of expressing happiness,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
So
the thing that's why I tend to go with contented,
yeah,
because
yeah,
when
yeah,
you're content with somebody,
yeah,
with your life, you appreciate the small things and you appreciate the everyday dull moments,
yeah.
because you're not constantly seeking this idea of happiness. We don't always walk around with big smiles on our
No, no, no,
faces
definitely,
because
yeah,
we're
yeah,
happy.
yeah.
That's just not life. But we can be content with what we have. We can be satisfied with what Allah has given us and the direction that we're going in. And that looks different to different people. But for us to recognize it, we need to address, like, what does that look like?
Shumi, see what you just said there. That to me is really, really, really important because I have identified that how we come in with the marriage is going to set the tone for better or for worse. So, like, give you an example. If I'm coming in the marriage expecting that my spouse will be the person that will make me happy, I've already lost. Because if I don't have those things that you just talked about, the purpose, the internal, what's that word that you said? I've forgotten. Just contentment. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I don't have that, or I'm not in tune with my creator, even before marriage, then I'm coming in seeking that elsewhere, and
Yeah.
that's usually at my partner. So if I've
Yeah.
got that mindset, there'll come a time when I'll be let down by my partner, and then it'll just equate to more and more letdowns, more and more, and all of a sudden we're just divorced. Because I put my whole happiness, my whole livelihood on my partner, or even just on different identities, on my fatherhood, on my husbandhood, and those things start crumbling, and all of a sudden I've lost my identity. But rather than my base should be to really reposition myself with Allah, my mission, just working on myself, regardless of if these external things work out or not, and
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
it goes back to that thing that you said. It's how are we coming in with the marriage? What is exactly that we are looking for in a partner? Am I looking to offload to my partner? Am I looking for them to be my rescuer, my person that gives me endorphins? Am I looking for validation from my partner, or am I very secure in myself where I'm actually quite grounded? It's nice if I get those from my partner, but I'm not relying on it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's having that sort of groundedness that we're coming into the marriage with.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the thing, that because, I mean, generally speaking, as Muslims, we don't really go to therapy regularly.
Yeah.
It's not something that we generally do unless we have a problem.
Yeah.
So this is why I don't call my services counseling or therapy. It's coaching, specifically because we're not saying you have a problem. We're not saying there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
We're saying let's just address who you are and what you're bringing to this marriage, what kind of marriage you want to create. Let's analyze what you are. Who are you? And because nobody, usually it's just not a discussion you have. You don't address it with yourself, and nobody will ever really, like, I remember when I got married, did anybody ever tell me what to expect or anything? They didn't. I had zero preparation. And you think about, like, if you go into a job, you're going into a course, there will always be some kind of induction, a training, something. And you have to look at it as you are going into a job when you get married. And you really should have some level of preparation before you go into it, because if you don't, it could go so horribly wrong, and you have very high stakes here. Like when you look into Malaysia's success rate of when they introduced pre-marital, and they made it mandatory. You can't get any car certificate until you do their counselling, pre-marital counselling. They've, alhamdulillah, managed to reduce their divorce rate massively because they've done that.
Subhanallah. Shumi, do you know, I'm in agreement 100% in what you're saying. I want to just quickly narrate something that I saw, that I was a witness to. So couple of days ago, I got invited to one of my family's. So it was like one of the relatives. So he's the father, and he's marrying off his daughter, and I got invited to this wedding, and it was like the father was giving the daughter away, and it was really, really nice. But after these conversations that we're having, I think, my gosh, what is she walking into? What is he even walking into? Are they that equipped? Because it's like you can see what could go on. You don't want to say anything, and you think, wow, have they been equipped? And his understanding is, Alhamdulillah, he's had a long marriage for like nearly 30, I think it's about 30 years. So he's going on by, well, my daughter's seen the evidence of what a marriage long term looks like, So he's hoping that she would like replicate that into her own personal marriage. But it's not that straightforward, because you still need tools, you still need skills
Yeah.
to be brought to your attention. Just because mum and dad have been married for that long, you don't know how you're going to handle the situation. Have you understood what makes you tick? What are your expectations of how to connect with a partner?
Yeah.
It's a different ball game, and I think, oh my gosh, now more the things that I know now, I actually get quite scared when someone's getting married, because I'm thinking, do you actually know what you're walking yourself into?
Yeah, for sure. It really does help massively when you have parents who have had a good relationship, because
Yeah.
that
Go on.
does set the boundary for what a relationship looks like.
Right.
But a lot
Okay.
of us don't have that. A lot of
Yeah.
us did not grow up with that.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I know people who are so put off by marriage because of what they've seen in their parents, and
Yeah.
they don't want to get married because of that.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking to see, because
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be your life. Their relationship can be very different to yours, and
Yeah.
the both way goes. It could be that they have a good relationship and you don't, but you have to be able to address, like, what kind of marriage do I want. And you need to be able to have the tools of conflict
Yeah.
resolution and communication skills. All of those expectations that you
Shumi, see
have,
that?
can they be addressed?
I I want to further look into those skills that you've spoken about. Like, see those conflict resolution skills. What do some of them things look like to you? Like, yeah,
Yeah, so conflict resolution, sometimes it's really about taking a step back. So you have an issue and you want it to stop escalating. You want to be able to take a short break. You want to be able to agree between you to return
yeah,
to the conversation, agree to not go really low, like take it to a level where you can't come back from, take responsibility.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
takes a level of maturity to be able to just step back and look at the scenario. Like, obviously there are skills that you need to be able to develop. It doesn't come
yeah,
automatically. It comes from
yeah.
wisdom, it comes from age, but you can also somewhat learn it. Yeah, like, we were never told that. I was never taught that. We just don't have that. It's not something you learn at school. um yeah.
Shuma, can I ask something? There's an observation that I've made, yeah, and through this conversation, there's one thing that stood. Well, there's many things, but one thing keeps on standing out over and over again. Every time that I speak to you, I've noticed this thing that you do very, very, very well, and I wanted to pull you up on that and capture your wisdom. And what it is this, when we're speaking, you're actually quite sharp at picking up social cues. And I'll give you an example what I mean. So say, for example, that we're talking. How do you know when to stop and pause and allow the other person to speak? Because reason why that I've pulled you up on this is because I've interviewed so many brothers and they just want to talk and they're unable to read these cues where, you know what, let the other person speak, or knowing when to back off, or like, say, for example, I'm literally saying something and I'm able to stop myself because I can see someone else wants to say something, and then I'll pause and then I'll let them say something. Where do you get that cue from? Where did you learn that? Because that's fascinating. Because there's so many people that I've come across that don't have these that particular skill. Because I think that this skill is really, really important So when someone's speaking, it's like that you're able to pause, that you're able to,
Mm,
okay, like know when to speak and when to ease off, and you know. So yeah, yeah, but
mm, yeah.
that was
For
just an
me,
observation I
especially
made. Yeah,
as a coach,
yeah.
I'm like that naturally. As a coach,
Wow, that's fascinating.
okay. No, for
Cause
genuinely, it's for
yeah,
me because as a coach, you are supposed to be more curious about the other person than what you have to say for yourself. And so that's
right,
something
right.
you have to develop. When I have coaching sessions, there is more silence on my part than there is talking. It's for me, this
Yeah,
is not about me giving you my wisdom and giving advice. It's
yeah,
about drawing the best out of you. Does that
yeah.
make
But
sense?
Shumi, 100%. And the reason why that I say that is fascinating, because imagine if we can bring that into our own marriages. How
Mm,
profound would
mm,
that be?
yeah, yeah,
That is so
really
profound.
can.
It's like I'm like sometimes there's a thing that I tell myself whenever I'm coaching is it's not about me, it's about them. It's I'm gonna listen more, I'm gonna ask questions more, because I'm really my whole intention is to get to know you. And I
Mm,
realized when I'm having these conversations, and say for example that I want to say something, my views don't really matter actually, because I
mm,
tend to find the answers anyway indirectly through the conversations, and I
mm,
get to know more and more about them. It's crazy, but just understanding those cues is is amazing. It's
mm,
absolutely like that can minimize argumentations. That can enhance understanding other people. Because
mm,
what I've come across is everyone wants to
mm,
speak and speak. Shumi, you know, they want to
mm,
offload because they feel as if that they've been what's that word? They've been shut down. They've ever been shut down.
mm,
No one cares. But and there's so many things that are inside them that they want to express, but they can't find a place, a safe space or place to express themselves. You know,
mm,
it's
yeah,
mad. That's why.
yeah. No, that's I'm
That,
not giving that.
yeah, and that's what stood out about you, like that cue. I thought, well, hang on a second, there's something here. This is really really important. That's why I asked you, like, so you're saying, did that come through your work, that where you're able to hone that, like that listening skill there,
Um,
or understanding cues, like, okay, this person
mm,
wants to speak up, let's be quiet now, you know?
yeah, I would say, generally speaking, I'm a very quiet person naturally,
Okay,
but my coaching skills have developed to understand why this is so impactful.
yeah, yeah,
And so that's when you go through your training, you are obviously you go through, you have your practice hours, and you are supposed to listen more than you talk to
yeah,
really
yeah,
try and understand that person. That's the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
point of having a coaching. Is if you think about like a
yeah,
boxing coach is somebody who he's your biggest advocate. He's the one that pushes you.
yeah,
He's the one that bigs you up. But
yeah,
he also holds you accountable. He also pushes you to your limits, and
yeah,
he advocates you to go further. That is what any coach should be doing for you. And
yeah.
it's not about listening to what they've said and constantly nattering on. You are supposed to listen to the person who is paying you to listen
Yeah,
to them.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
understand? So yeah, like this, I use this. It's a toolkit to teaching couples how to pause, and it's like an
It's
acronym which is
powerful. It's
made up with the
absolutely,
name pause.
yeah, that's really powerful, Shumi. You know, wow, it's that's actually profound. You know, there was something I want to ask you actually as well. You know, how do you argue, Shumi?
Do you mean personally?
Well, okay,
My
yeah, you
person.
could say that. Like, reason why that I'm saying that is this. Okay, so it took me 15 years in a marriage to realize this, how to argue. And what I mean by that is there's two
Mm,
ways. There's a negative way where I can make the situation even more explosive, or there's an adab of arguing where it's about understanding. We're going to argue. We don't have to see eye to eye. But at the end of it,
mm,
I'm able to understand you a lot more better. You know, so
yeah,
that's why
yeah.
I ask you, like,
Um,
what is how do you argue, like, you know?
I would say it has taken me a very long time as well
Yeah,
to get to that point.
yeah,
A lot of it is to do with as I said, pause, but also is, for me, like throughout the day, I kind of have to remember the good that that person has done.
Yeah,
And that helps massively in seeing that person as not just that one snapshot of their day where they're a bit miserable, where
yeah,
they're a bit snappy, and they maybe have taken it out on you.
yeah,
And I'm not saying I have that all the time.
yeah,
I
yeah. I
don't.
get that. I get that.
But you, throughout the day or throughout the week, you do have to appreciate people that are in your life. You think about the good things that they've done. So when in the run up to when you actually have your argument, you're already at a place where you're coming from a place of love for this person. You have that basis already. But obviously there are certain things that are off bounds,
Yeah, yeah.
insults, humiliation,
Yes, yeah,
physical
yeah. Absolutely,
intimidation, threats of divorce, things like that.
absolutely.
Those are things which should not be part of your argument. They should be
Yeah, yeah,
completely using children as weapons. All of
yeah,
that stuff should not be a part of your vocabulary, and if it is, you really need to address that because it's unacceptable. But obviously, yeah, you have
Shumi,
to develop
le- let's say,
skills of not.
um, let's say that, say for example, I've just gotten into an argument. I'm feeling emotional. How do I? What would you advise me to do at that point? Say for example, I'm very emotional now, and what would you advise me to do in that point when I'm arguing and now emotions have been brought into it? What can I do at that moment?
You could probably reach out and hold a person's hand. That would probably
Ah,
massively reduce just touching their hand, and even would be even better is to stroke their hand.
yeah, yeah,
Just bring that connection back to ground zero. They looked into it, and neurologically, that's the
yeah.
biggest thing that they can do to reduce anxiety and depression and bring back calm into that scenario. That's the
Wow.
first step.
Yeah, yeah,
After that, you should be able to present your argument without screaming and shouting,
yeah,
without resorting to anything else, but presenting it. Imagine you're presenting your idea to a board meeting at work.
yeah,
You're not going to scream and shout. You have your passion. You're passionate about this scenario, whatever it is. Trying to convince that other person, you're not going to be able to do it when you're
yeah,
angry at them. Just understand that.
yeah,
Understand that people don't react well to aggression and to people being like big-headed about something else.
yeah,
Like, obviously things sometimes they escalate. We can't help it, we're human beings.
yeah.
But it takes a level of practice to get to that point of being able to have those arguments. But at least for the first part, just hold their hand, just calm them down.
What if it's you who's emotionally upset, and because reason why I'm asking this as well is it's like it has to be a team thing. So I give you an example.
Yeah.
If I'm angry, then I would expect my partner, who's the calmest one, to calm me down, just to help regulate me, yeah, or vice versa. And sometimes we don't operate like that. We end up arguing with each other. Now all of a sudden that we're at war with each other, rather than trying to help each other. It's back and forward turmoil, because that's another thing that I've found that not everyone knows how to do as well. It's okay if one is feeling emotional, then the other one should just back down and just because it's not their time. There's no point in talking at that time. Just let the person just vent out whatever it is that they want to vent out, as long as it's not abusive. It's that they're just expressing their hurt, their pain, and just listen at that point.
Yeah. I think if you're the one who is like going out of control, it's important that part of it is because you haven't practiced emotional regulation
Yeah,
with yourself. When you have that as a regular, you don't let it get to that stage of where it's beyond help. And it's important that we take responsibility to do that ourselves, because we can't expect this other spouse of ours to always bring us back. That's not their responsibility,
absolutely.
it's ours. And taking that accountability really helps, because a lot of the times we expect when we get into a marriage, oh, this person is going to fix everything. All of my happiness and everything I ever wanted is going to be dumped on this person, and that's too much for one person to take. anyone should not have that much responsibility for another person. In Islam, a man is responsible for, protecting,
Yeah.
providing,
Yeah.
taking care of. That is, he will be responsible to Allah on the Day of Judgment for that.
Absolutely.
He is not responsible for keeping you calm. He is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
responsible for keeping you happy, even.
Yeah.
He's responsible for giving the life that he can and keeping the relationship going
Yeah.
and being there for you. Sometimes, if you're upset, yes, he can give you a hug, he can
Yeah.
calm you down, but not if you're behaving unacceptably,
Yeah.
And I do know people who do go way beyond the limits, and they expect that their husband is going to calm them down. Well, maybe that's actually you being abusive to him.
Yeah.
You're being emotionally manipulative to a person who is supposed to be your partner, and dumping all of your, like, your aggression on a
Yeah.
person when they don't deserve it, and they're not therapists, so
Yeah.
they shouldn't have to regulate you when you're the one who's supposed to regulate yourself. And I said it does take a level of practice and, like, awareness that this is something that needs to be done by myself
Yeah.
rather than wait for somebody else to do it for you.
What if you're in that type of marriage where it's gone beyond that point of awareness? It's like now I'm in the depth of it, where my partner's not doing a good job anymore in terms of regulating me or fulfilling my needs in that sense. Then it just like, then it can come across like this person doesn't understand me. Well, actually, maybe his or her situation weren't there to fix certain things. That's on you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there are times when this is what observation is, that
Yeah.
people, when they get to that point of no return,
Yeah.
they then go for therapy, they then go for marriage counseling, and usually it's too late by then, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you end up leaving. And it's really important that if you are having some serious problems, you really
Yeah.
need to go and seek help. Now, whether that's to a professional or a trusted
Yeah.
relation, or somebody, a friend, you need to have some level of support for your marriage. You need to see it important enough to have to be able to go to those places and not just constantly brush it under. Because if there are serious problems, it
Yeah.
only gets worse usually. It doesn't usually just fix itself, because that's just
No.
delusional thinking.
Yeah.
How are you expecting a serious problem to just fizzle out? It just doesn't.
It doesn't.
And if
No.
anything, it festers and it breeds resentment. And resentment is one of the hardest things to overcome in a marriage.
Yeah.
They could talk about the four apocalypse of marriage, and resentment
Yeah.
is one of them. And to be able to fulfill a contented marriage, you really don't have the opportunity to just brush things under the carpet. Face your problems,
Yeah.
get help if you need to help, fix yourself, and do what you need to do, because your marriage is really important. It's like a 24-hour worship almost. That's what some scholars, they call it that. It's a constant need for feeding it whatever it needs to be fed. And sometimes it's at different stages will require different things from you.
Wow. You know, Shumi, I want to ask you. See, in your opinion, what do you think can make a marriage thrive, not survive, but thrive?
From my understanding, from
Yeah.
what I've observed,
Yeah.
it's really about having people understand that they are a team.
Yeah.
And when you are a team, you want the best for your team. You want your team to excel. You don't want to be that one that just is dragged along and you're just tolerating each other. The minute you see that person as your advocate, that's your biggest advocate, and you're there for them,
Yeah.
you want to create something beautiful.
Yeah.
You want to create that legacy, and you want to leave behind something so amazing that your children attribute their success to you,
Yeah.
because you gave them such a wholesome upbringing. That's what we want, really. Ultimately, we want to produce children who are well-rounded, wholesome children, who will then marry other well-rounded, wholesome children and create more marriages. For me, the way I see it, this is what creates good Muslim communities that thrive. And if you're not going to have, like, there's no point in having a man who is so successful in his business and he's
Yeah.
so rich, but his marriage is in tatters.
Of
His
course.
children don't like
Of
him.
course. Yeah.
He's got no communication with his relatives. Like, what kind of person? How can a person be content like that? You've only got one portion of your life which is
Yeah.
thriving, and the rest of it, the part that really matters in the end.
Yeah.
Because, like, imagine your relationships are really the most important thing out of this.
Yeah.
You'll find like billionaires and people who have multiple, gold awards, medals, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
The thing that they say on their deathbed is that I wish I had paid more attention to my children or my
Yeah.
wife or my parents. Those are the things that are important to them. Their billions don't count when you're dead. Like, those are the things which they really hold on to. And we are taking it for granted that we have that. A lot of us take for granted that these people will always be there. They won't always be there.
No.
Eventually, you will be on your own in your grave. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you haven't
Absolutely.
fixed those problems, you haven't had solid relationships, you will forever regret not taking the chance to have that bonding, have that, real connection with somebody.
Shumi, I got a question for you in regards to that. Yeah. So, like, say for example, our intention is to come in with the aim of being together and working for a greater cause. Yeah, and we both start off like that. But then through time, your words get tested. You get rocked along the way, and what you started off with is now starting to waver. What you said, because now all of a sudden that you're starting to see, okay, there's cracks. Okay, there's this person is not as grounded as I thought, or like this person seems shaken. Like that rocks the whole entire situation. Because there's one thing coming in with that intention, and then there's one thing like, are you growing and developing and becoming more stronger so you can become that person? That's the aim. So, like, say for example, the aim is like what you've discussed here. But am I that person to begin with, or is it that I want to aspire towards that and I want to put in the work, I want to put in the effort? That's when you'll get tested. Like, so there's one thing having that intention, and then there's the other thing, actually, now we've got to put in the work.
Yeah, I mean, that's in any job that you have.
Yeah.
You need to keep some level of training. They will give you some kind of, like, what's the word, CPD.
Oh,
where
yeah,
you have to be able to draw back. You have to come back to what's missing, what kind of tools is missing from you. And that's in anyone's life. You're not a constant uphill trajectory. You have moments where you have weakness. That's in our iman, that's in our relationships.
Absolutely.
As people, it's important for the other person to see, okay, this person they're having a moment, they're having weakness, they're having a level of crisis. Even it's our job to help them. It is our job to be there to support them. But for yourself, you need to be in that continuous development and continuous self-analysis. If you are not addressing why you are feeling the way you are, why you want the things you want, then you're just going to be continuously it will agitate you to the point of maybe it will make you go somewhere you really shouldn't go. There's a lot of people that go to vices, like they turn to vices instead of addressing the real issue. And then that just creates more problems, and it's just a cycle. And then it affects other people instead.
Shumi, on a just on a final note, what one piece of advice can you give to our viewers who are tuning in? What would that advice be, Shumi, for you, from you to them?
For me, like, I was thinking about this the other day, like this next generation that is coming up. They often get a lot of flack. They often get a lot of criticism. Gen X, or they can't do Gen Z. They can't do anything. But I'm actually really looking forward to what they can come up with.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to. So this generation has got so much ingenuity, so much tech knowledge, so many geniuses. I see so many kids really excelling. I'm so looking forward to what they can produce, and I think it's important that we give them that confidence back, because it's not nice constantly berating them for not being able to get up in the morning, not being able to do like basic things or whatever. Comparing our upbringing to them, and to have that constant like, oh well, I didn't do this when I was young, why are you doing it? They are they
Yeah.
are facing a very, very different
Yeah.
set of challenges to
Yeah.
us. They are in a situation where everything that they ever do will probably be online. Somebody's recording them, or
Yeah.
it's, noted or something. You can never just move away from the mistakes that you made. It will always be there. Like the the comparison that you always have with people who have made it, and you haven't got there yet, and like all of these things they're facing, we didn't face that. Our problems and our mistakes were always private, and they were kept private.
Yeah.
And it's not blasted on social media. So like I feel like it's important to really understand that the next generation have a lot to offer. We need to help them to get the best out of them. We need to be able to be open enough and give them that safe space to say, like, this is what I want, and I want to be able to do it. Can I count on your support? Can I count on you being my biggest advocate and being able to draw the best out of me? For me, this is my advice to, obviously, I'm assuming that your viewers are a lot older.
Yeah.
They're not the young generation. And obviously sometimes some of us, we have kids. So like, really, I'm actually looking forward to it. I would advise you to look forward to what this next generation come up with, because there's some amazing people out there. There's amazing kids out there who are doing a lot. And imagine, like, some of these kids, they're going to Oxbridge, they're going to Harvard, they're doing their HIVs.
Yeah.
These are our next future leaders, and those people, inshallah, will also influence our other kids who maybe haven't had those chances.
Would would you say that are you talking about in terms of the principles behind their achievements? So it's like just the confidence, to have the confidence, the encouragement to do these sort of things, and that confidence and encouragement also can help them in their marriage if they ever were to get married. Is that the angle that you're coming from, or like what or you just like generally speaking just encouraging them just so they could have the confidence to nurture other attributes that they can stack on top of their skills?
Yeah, for me that was just a general observation that I just want to encourage people to really look forward and to see that next generation as the ones who maybe they're able to fix those massive problems that we weren't able to fix. But in terms of their marriage, like, I do feel like we need to be a bit more open to really understanding, like, people as they are. They're flawed human beings, and we are all flawed human beings trying to make our way through here. And in general, when a person has confidence in you, you feel that level of boost.
Absolutely.
You feel that level of, I've got somebody backing me now. I've got people who are rooting for me. It gives that person a lot more of a well-rounded
100%.
perspective.
I agree.
And so it really does help when your parents are rooting for you, your wife is rooting for you, your kids are rooting for you. It makes you do a much better job in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. Shumi, okay, so where can we reach you? That those sisters who want to take up pre-coaching, where would be the best place to contact you? Where can we find you on your social media? Do you have a website that say if a sister wants to reach out to you, where can she go for additional help?
So I did have an Instagram, but unfortunately it got hacked, so I don't have access to the messages anymore. So I'm going to have to recreate another page. I am on TikTok, and it's called Ainika. And I have my email address should be on there, and I'm working on my website. Inshallah, it will be there soon.
Amazing.
I'm not very good at this whole business side of it.
No, that's right. It's cool. We just want a main point of contact, so sisters could reach out to you and
So a good place would be my email, which is ainikacoaching@gmail.com. And you can find that on TikTok.
Amazing.
And I did want to offer an offer to your viewers.
Yes, please do.
If they would like pre-marital coaching, then I am happy to do it for free. For the first 3 people who come in contact with you through you guys.
Is that for sisters only, or is it couples, or like
It's a couples.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
couples.
couples.
Amazing.